It has been a really busy few weeks. Actually, it's really been a very busy few months. And I think it's fair to say I'm absolutely exhausted. Hey everyone, how's it going and welcome back. Yep, you heard it right, I am exhausted. And I suppose it's just that time of year where, as well as everything else that's going on in the garden, there's loads of other stuff to be doing, whether it's sowing seeds and watering and caring for seedlings, or then pricking them out, potting them on, watering and caring for those. It has been really busy, and I've been really busy. And everything came to a head last week when I had, well, what is really a pretty big disaster with a whole load of my seedlings and baby plants. So I've decided that I'm going to take a break, or at least a break from the big heavy project work like the vegetable garden and the polytunnel, and instead I'm hitting pause. So this garden is really pretty big, and along with that, a really pretty big workload comes just to stay on top of the garden and keep it looking at least semi-decent. Now, I love that. I really like to push myself to get a big project done. I do that not only for myself, but for the garden, and now I also do it for you guys and the YouTube channel. I really like being able to show you a project from start to finish, whether it's building the raised beds here in the vegetable garden or working on the polytunnel. But as encouraging as it is to get me out into the garden to do that, sometimes it tips just a little bit over from encouragement into what feels like pressure. And when I feel that pressure, that's not fun. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not a video where I'm going, oh, poor me, everything is so awful, I'm so tired. It's not that. I'm doing great. But what it did make me think is that if I'm feeling like that at this time of year, at least some of you may be feeling like that as well. So I want to say it is okay to feel like that. The important thing is that the garden, as well as obviously driving some good work that keeps us busy, first and foremost needs to be something that is nourishing for us, that's really good for our own well-being. So if you are feeling a bit overloaded, or like me, just flat out tired at the moment, let's take a break together this episode. And the way I'm going to do that this week, well, rather than cutting 62 scaffolding boards, or chopping down a tree, or cutting down a massive section of hedge, instead, I'm going to tell you what's been happening here in the garden this week, and also showing you just some of the lovely things that are flowering or looking brilliant at the moment, because at this time of year, everything changes so quickly, and I've been taking this week to really just relax, wander around, and appreciate those things. But before we do that, I want to tell you about the seedling baby plant disaster story, for want of a better phrase. Okay, so here's what happened. If you've watched any of my previous videos recently, my April seed sowing video, or the video where I started working on the polytunnel renovation, you'll have seen a lovely table full of seedlings and baby plants. Well, I've been caring for those pretty much religiously for, well, some of them a few weeks, but some of them since January and February, and they've been doing really nicely. Until last week. They're down in the polytunnel, and the polytunnel doesn't have any dedicated ventilation, which means that you have to make sure to open the door in good time in the morning so that it doesn't get too hot, especially at the moment because the weather's getting better. Yep, you guessed it. I went out for a few hours and forgot to open the door. To say it got hot, it hit 47 degrees Celsius in there. The plants got absolutely roasted for a few hours, and when I came home, to my horror, everything was flat, and I mean flat. And what I ended up doing was just giving them emergency water. Really, I'm looking back and thinking I should have at least taken a little bit of video footage to show you, but I was really pretty ashamed. So for the last few days, I've been giving them basically intensive care to try and revive them. Now, the good news is quite a few of them have revived quite nicely, but some of them They are total goners. And also, some of them, the parts of the plants have been damaged and other parts aren't damaged. So what I'm doing instead is I'm pinching those bits out in the hope that what I'll get is a bushy plant from what's remaining. But it was exactly this happening, this kind of culmination of everything, that made me think, you know what, I need to chill out for a week and just relax. So that's the disaster story talked about. Now, let's go and look at some of the lovely things in the garden. So at this time of year, some plants are in their prime and are just absolutely gorgeous. The first one is this lovely little low-growing plant. Now, I think that it's some kind of saxifrage. If it's not, feel free to correct me in the comments down below, or even better, tell me exactly what it is, because I would love to know. The reason I love it is for the little pink flowers, because rather than just being one shade of pink, there's all sorts of different shades. It's just so interesting, and actually it makes for really beautiful photos. And then staying on the pink theme, on the other side of the front garden, we have the ornamental crabapple, which is looking spectacular right now. Not only is it coming into leaf, but it's starting to come into flower. And those little flower buds are a really deep, almost magenta pink, but then as they open, the flowers are much more delicate and much paler, which is really, really beautiful. So down in the back garden, there's also interesting things to look at. Now, some of the spring bulbs have passed now. The daffodils, the snowdrops, they're gone, but they've made way for some other really interesting little plants. The first of these is a celandine or a celandine. We only have a couple of patches in the garden, but I love them. These lovely bright yellow little delicate flowers are just fantastic, way nicer than a standard buttercup or something like that. And then again, staying on that yellow theme, we have cowslips and oxlips. No matter how many times I look it up online to find out which is a cowslip and which is an oxlip, I never remember. So I'll show you both. We have loads of them in the garden and they are just looking great at the minute. And then as well as that, we've got some bluebells popping up here and there. Not only blue ones, but white ones as well. We've got quite a lot of white ones. And then in little isolated areas, we have blue forget-me-nots. So there's always something to be looking at in this area. It's just really interesting and really, really nice. Down by the pond, it's even more yellow. We have the marsh marigolds that I planted up last year. They have just romped away this year, and for, well, maybe the last 4 weeks, 5 weeks, have been covered in these bright yellow flowers. They're looking spectacular. And certainly you can see, as you look around the garden, it just feels like everything has burst into life. And no matter where you look, there's something interesting that you can look at in detail, focus on, and enjoy. Now, it wouldn't be me if I hadn't at least done something in the garden. And what I've been doing this week is planting out some really nice plants into a few areas of the back garden. Where I've been focusing on is the flower bed next to the pond and the rockery that goes round the back of the pond, the orchard bed that I opened up and created just before Christmas, and a lovely little area of no-mow grass that I'm keeping in the orchard as well. Each of those areas I've planted up with foxgloves. I sowed those foxgloves, back in maybe late autumn. I've been keeping them growing indoors, potting them on and bringing them on into nice healthy plants. I grew a lot of them, about 90 or 100. And I've spent the week slowly just potting them out and putting them all over the place. And they look really, really nice already. But what I think they're going to do is they're just going to give that lovely sort of loose, wild feel around the orchard and around the pond. And then particularly in the pond area, I've also been planting out some other plants that I've had, a whole selection of ferns. I've got a couple of larger shrubs. I've got a couple of cotinus plants, and I've got 3 cornus plants. And all of those this week and over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be planting out to really make that area something nice. Like I said, what I'm going for is something that's going to be wild, but not too wild, really nice and green and lush. And I suppose something kind of curated. But what I have been doing a lot of this week is just wandering around the garden and enjoying it. As cliche and twee as it sounds, just savouring how nice the garden is at this time of year. Because ultimately, for me, that's really what a garden should be. It should be a space that allows you to relax, recharge, recenter, and I suppose all of those other well-being words that begin with re, and the little bit of space I've got by just stepping back from all of the hard work for the week has, well, I suppose opened my eyes to how much I've actually achieved over the last couple of months. I'm really happy. I'm happy because I've achieved it, but most of all, I'm happy because I can now see the garden starting to take the shape that I want, that it's going to do what I want, and that's brilliant. And even better, the space has also shown me that a lot of these jobs are jobs I'm only going to ever have to do once. Oh my word, I really hope I only ever have to do them once. So if you're anything like me in the garden, or in life for that matter, you maybe sometimes need to be told that it's okay just to chill out for a while. So from me to you, it is okay to take a break and just enjoy. And along with that, when you're in the garden, make sure to dedicate some time doing the things that aren't necessarily purposeful and useful, but are the things that bring you back to what really makes you enjoy your garden. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, do all the usual things. Hit the like button. If you haven't already, subscribe and make sure to hit the bell icon so that you'll be notified when I post my next video. And also, I've linked another couple of videos up either side of me because if you haven't already seen them, I think you'll enjoy them. And until next time, see you later.